and everyone was happy with that. So you all know we're a minute past 4. So I'm going to just start and say Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. It is February 14th. And you may or may not know, but St. Valentine's Heart is in a church in Dublin, Ireland. So there you go. We have a link with St. Valentine as well as St. Patrick. You're all very welcome to the Buildings Action Coalition BAC Learning webinar. And as you know, we run our webinars on the second Wednesday of every month at 4 p.m. London time. And that just makes sure it keeps it in people's minds. And we're really, really pleased to run this session with Cho. In is a New York City-based sustainability passive house architect and educator. In recognizes the critical need for a multifaceted approach to address the urgent environmental and social crisis we face today. And while designing energy-efficient, high-performance buildings, she brings her professional expertise into broad classroom settings. She utilizes transformative education to reshape perceptions, spark innovation, and drive the widespread adoption of energy efficiency through Passive House, empowering individuals to become active agents of environmental and social change and to create a cultural norm around climate action. By leveraging the creative arts to enrich the learning experience, encourages individuals to think beyond the conventional and seek innovative solutions to the pressing challenges that we face. And this approach strengthens imaginations and sharpens critical thinking skills and nurtures lifelong learning, crucial for a thriving present and future for everyone. And anyone who was fortunate enough to be with us in Escorty last June will have seen in present, and you know exactly what it is that you're letting yourselves in for. So sit back, hold on to your seats, and I'm going to hand over now to and let her do her presentation. And then after that, Scott will do questions and answers. So it's over to you, I'm looking forward to listening.
Great. Thank you so much, Barbara. And hello, everyone. Let me start by sharing the screen. So let me just do that right now. Hold on, share screen. And let me know if everyone can see. Okay, so can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Okay,
good.
1 second. Okay, great. All right. Well, again, as Barbara said, happy Valentine's Day. And I am so pleased to have this day to spread the love of everyone's energy, a love for the energy efficiency and of high performance buildings. So it's a really great privilege. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you a little bit about our work to empower the next generation for climate action through the transformative education of energy efficient high performance buildings. It's been said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So we all know that the past 200 plus years of fossil fuel usage and its carbon emissions have been the primary driver of climate change, posing significant interconnected negative impacts on the environment, economy, society, as well as to our health. And this past year, the effects of climate change have been astonishing, with increasing wildfires, floods, droughts, unrelenting heat, continued warming oceans, dying reefs, and more, all reinforcing the incredible urgency of our communities and their hard work for it to keep going strong. So as more scientists and experts are warning of cataclysm, more and more people are wondering, how are we going to get out of this? So for many, and particularly beyond this forum, the answers aren't always obvious. Clearly, it's going to take incremental improvements on a monumental scale, but it's also likely going to involve many things that no one has yet foreseen. Like many problems in history, the solutions are likely to come from unexpected people with stunningly creative ideas. And if that's true, what can we do to help ensure those people emerge? So this is where we come in, introducing Passive House for Everyone. So our belief is that creative thinking is needed in order to solve the climate crisis. And our thesis is that it's never too early to start. Our mission is to empower young people of all ages with the knowledge and skills to be environmental and social agents of change to build a sustainable world. Our methodology is based on 4 principles. First, to impart foundational knowledge. Second, to inspire creativity and excitement. Third, to introduce implementation skills. And fourth, to instill hope and belief. If we are unable to understand the cause of a problem, it is impossible to solve it. The foundational knowledge we start with is based on architecture, and it probably makes sense to tell you a little bit of our origin story. We're all aware that our built environment are among the most significant contributors to carbon emissions, globally responsible for 40%. And in dense cities such as New York, this percentage is even closer to an astounding 70%. So we all know that sustainably designed buildings are therefore critical to our climate solution to sustain our quality of life. And in our architectural practice, like all of you, we've been passionate about the energy efficiency, low carbon emissions, and comfort, health, and as well as so many other benefits of passive house design. So in response to this pressing climate crisis and in solidarity with all of our incredible local to global communities, we were driven to share these benefits to as many people as possible and as quickly as possible. We wanted everyone to benefit from this way of living while actively participating in the climate solution. We first joined the efforts of our local and global communities to reach carbon neutrality by 2050 through supporting policies around energy efficiency by serving as an industry expert advisor to the 2020 New York City Energy Conservation Code. And in doing so, we very quickly realized that in order to know how to comply to support the new laws and policies, that we needed to increase awareness and knowledge for everyone, and responded to this ever-growing urgency to spread passive house knowledge by presenting in conferences, giving lectures locally and globally, and training industry professionals through various local New York City organizations, as well as providing educational tours of our passive house projects throughout New York City. And even with all this, the scale of impact still felt too narrow in helping to more swiftly address our climate crisis with its negative impacts. Our reach remained within our general industry, which was a critical first step, and yet we were compelled to extend it farther beyond our industry. We wanted everyone to have a household knowledge of building sustainability the way that they have about recycling. And we quickly realized that this meant focusing on young people. We saw that we could greatly extend our reach in fostering environmental and social resiliency by educating youth, who could then share their knowledge and experience with other generations and peers, such as their parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins, and more. So as the inheritors of the climate crisis, the youth of our world are passionate about helping to mitigate its interconnected environmental, social, and health impacts, but they need to know how. So we first reached out to New York City Public Schools, and we began teaching passive house concepts to students live in classrooms, as well as remotely during the early 2020 pandemic shutdown. We taught these passive house principles in fun, collaborative, and creative ways that we thought would spark their interest, in the hopes that what would be the most personal and meaningful to them would also stand the best chance of becoming a continuing part of their understanding and basis of their own future actions. And we always start with our first principle of imparting foundational knowledge. So we teach passive house principles even with the very young. And so here is a sample of a kindergartner through drawings. Let me know if the audio is good.
My name is Sabrina Cammons. I go to PS10 and I'm 5 years old. My post is about high performance windows. Did you know that in the summer it keeps you cool and in the winter it keeps you hot? And it has 3 layers and it stops the thermal bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. And here is an example of a second grader through model making.
Here's my Lego model of a no thermal bridge.
Okay, thank you for that. And now a fifth grader also through model making, exploring another passive house principle.
This is my basic model of the ventilation system. It uses the warm air from inside to warm the cold air from outside. So now you're getting fresh air, and now the fresh air is warm enough that you don't have to use a lot of energy on heat to warm up the air. I assure you these are 100% plant-based straws, and that is my video.
And last, from a high schooler.
Hi, my name is Janai Holy, and I'm in the 9th grade, and this is my interpretation of the high performance windows. So over here you can see that I have the green grass that's indicates the outside, and then the blue strips right here represents the cold air, and the red strips represents the hot air that come from outside. And the yellow two pieces in the middle indicates the sunlight, and they stretch from the outside to the inside, indicating that only light can come in and no more. And then the 3 blue pieces right here indicates the 3 high performance windows, and then you have a couch, and yeah.
Problems are nothing but wake-up calls for creativity. Our second principle is to inspire creativity and excitement. So after the students have learned the passive house principles, we want them to internalize them. So we encourage exploration of passive house principles by thinking creatively about the forms of communication that each student personally finds most exciting. So in addition to the wonderful examples that you just saw, here is a further interpretive exploration. And for the very young, it might be a physical performance.
Classes hosted high performance windows. Level up. 3 layers of glass.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level up, 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 level up. Oh, this song is so yummy. Oh, this song is so yummy.
Now, for a high school student whose passion is to be a rap singer, it would be in a form of a vocal performance.
What's up? My name is Jahai. I'm a senior at Boys and Girls High School, and I explored the principle of air sealing for the passive house.
Pull up for air sealing. I think the house needs healing. We gotta seal up all the airways, cause it's getting chilly. We got the foam spray, seal the cracks up without an apology. Now I spend less money for the HVAC and I improve the quality of the air. Air sealing, we gotta spray up the ceiling. We gotta seal up all the airways, cause it's getting chilly. We got the foam spray, seal the cracks up without an apology. Now I spend less money on my HVAC and I improve the quality of the air. I improve my 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 quality of the air.
Thank you, Jahai. And for an entire class of students who might collectively perform a physical interpretive explorations, which you call bodies in motion, demonstrating the 5 passive house principles. So the first principle of airtightness is expressed in the floating air molecule of the students trapped in the airtight building envelope, unable to leak out. Second principle, insulation, showcases multiple layers for a robust insulation requirement with continuous and snug fitting application for passive house. High performance windows and doors shows a person indoors on the left and outdoors on the right, with the multiple window panes increasing the comfort of the indoor person on the left. No thermal bridging is expressed in the continuity of heat flow across the body bridge, interrupted by the thermal block. And fifth principle, balanced ventilation with heat recovery, provides fresh filtered air supply with heat recovery represented by the red ball from the exhaust air, preheating the incoming cold air. Okay, and finally, here is another exploration for the 5 passive house principles in the form of drama from a high school student.
Hi, my name is Hara. I'm a sophomore in Boys and Girls High School in New York, and I explored all 5 principles of passive house. Me and my friend Kayla made a presentation of all about 5 principles of passive house.
Hey you ever heard of passive house? Let me tell you something. You know about insulation? It's just one principle. It will have your house real warm. Come with me. So imagine you in the winter time with a nice big jacket. I know you'll feel warm, but that's just insulation. Don't worry, you got more. Stop. You hit jackpot if you got air sealing, man. Let me tell you, it prevents any air leaking off the building. Ain't that crazy? We got ceiling cracks and holes so air won't leak out. Come with me. There are many principles about passive house. Right now we only have 2. I got 3 more and that's it. Now windows and doors, they'll be high performance. That's 3 windows. Triple the fun, triple the stuff. That's triple pane windows. Now ain't that crazy, man? Then there's thermal bridge, right? You gotta turn up the flow, or you're gonna have some real cold feet when that air moves in and out. Now, if I was you, get passive house. You don't want cold feet.
Okay, this is it. Heat recovery ventilation system. Keeps the air coming in and the air coming out. Now, let me tell you something. In the wintertime, the heat stays in like a never left the house. In the summertime, the rules are reversed. That's why HRV will never empty out your purse.
Now you heard of passive house. That's the way to go. Never waste a penny. Get that money up, save your bread, and save that dough. So now you know.
Okay. Problem-solving leaders have one thing in common, a faith that there's always a better way. If our goal is to truly inspire creative solutions to an enormous problem, we couldn't shy away from implementation. But the question was how to do this with students without giving them actual apprenticeships on architecture projects just yet. So we found a way with these 4th-year architecture students at Pratt Institute who explored passive house in the spring of 2023. And this solution will both empower them with knowledge and skills, as well as help them become environmental and social agents of change. And even better, we felt that they could learn while also contributing actively to their local and greater communities, including directly contributing to meeting the New York City's goal to reduce 80% of carbon emissions by the year 2050, as well as to many of the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. So we challenged them with their internationally established passive house design activity originating in Brussels, Belgium, known as the Icebox Challenge, which scientifically demonstrates the benefits of energy efficient high performance buildings. We all know of this event and its many iterations all over the world. 2 structures are built, one to the local building requirements, while the other to the international passive house standards. And previous examples around the world from our professional architectural industry look something like this, starting from Brussels, Belgium, and such as this in Washington, D.C., USA, like this in Vancouver, Canada, and such as this in Sydney, Australia, and many more wonderful examples in other parts of the world. So these structures are then placed in a public space filled with a block of ice in each structure. And then after a week to a month, depending on climate and season, the results are revealed by the amount of ice remaining in each of the 2 structures. What we all love about the Icebox Challenge, as it has been said, is that it really helps make the invisible visible through observation. So making otherwise intangible abstract concepts to many into a really fun, engaging scientific design exercise that strengthens public awareness around sustainability. So the Pratt Icebox Challenge is the first ever US student-led designed and built Icebox Challenge. And I have to admit, it was daunting. With only one semester, we taught Passive House knowledge, designed it, figured out how to build it, built it, and publicly displayed for further knowledge sharing. After grounding them on Passive House principles through conceptual explorations, where they produced the body and motion routine that I previously showed you, as well as through mixed media collage and spoken poetry, they then dove into designing the first ever US student design build ice structures for public scientific demonstration around the benefits of energy efficient building structures. In pairs of two, they explore the Passive House concepts through the icebox design, along with site context considerations for solar orientation, combined with explorations around public space making and educational exhibition. Following, they further explore their designs through model making and modular strategies for ease of construction assembly, since the students themselves will be transporting and assembling on site, and further iterations through model studies for constructability. With explorations through renderings on site, here a few studies at a public space in downtown Manhattan near the Brooklyn Bridge. Another student paired designs with more modular ideas for construction, with many iterations of the form in various scales. Lots of hands-on building. So leading to build the icebox structures in full scale of about 2.5 meter by 2.5 meter by 2.5 meter framework. With a group synthesis of all the student designs put together into one final version, they will then together figure out how to construct and build. And throughout the semester, while designing their structures, the industry professionals and trades exposed our students to various materials and methods for high performance building construction through active hands-on applications. And here is a quick video of their half full-scale mock-up to test out their detailing and modular assembly design in preparation for their full-scale construction. These students are designing modularly as a way to easily transport and reuse these structures for learning purposes to other educational institutions. And in this way, they are actively helping to spread the word on Passive House sustainable design and participating as industry leaders even before they graduate. Okay, thank you. So with lessons learned from their half full-scale mock-up, they refined their details and began their full-scale final construction in the studio. And then once all the modules were constructed in the studio off-site, they transported to the final site location on campus for assembly with exterior insulation for site install, as well as bringing along the final facade rain screen cladding, and then air sealing the floor-based modules together, placing the modular walls, and after, installing exterior insulation, and then moving on to the final rain screen cladding, and then prepping for the roof install. And now I'm going to share with you just a quick time-lapse video of the modular construction assembly on site. So on the left is to be the New York City local energy code structure, and on the right is the Passive House. And we have the red weather-resistant barrier of tieback on the left, and on the right is the yellow in the stow, gold coat. And we also had umbrellas for rain protection during construction. You can see the insulation and rain screen cladding beginning on the left, and then it'll be finishing up on the right for the Passive House structure. With the structures completed, 1,144 pounds of ice blocks were placed in each structure, and the structure sat outdoors for 1 week before the grand reveal. Inside of every problem lies an opportunity. Our fourth principle, to instill hope and belief, often comes out of the other three. When young people see a problem, internalize it, develop creative ways to solve it, and then execute, belief emerges. And out of belief in themselves comes hope for the future. And here's how that belief emerged for our Pratt students. So during this 1 week, our students participated in community outreach education, helping to bring greater awareness for sustainable building practice to the greater community. And local public elementary classes came on field trips to learn about the Icebox Challenge. And our architecture students taught their younger counterparts about Passive House. And the elementary school students had so much fun learning about building sustainability. And hopefully they'll go home and talk about this with their parents and peers, and thus spread this message into their own communities as well. Our fourth year students also taught to fellow architecture students about Passive House as well. A week after, we shared with the greater community with over 150 participants from all sectors at the grand reveal to witness the result of the ice melting and the efficacy of the icebox structures. During the event, prior to revealing the final results, folks gathered to peek in and check out the state of the ice blocks in each of the structures. Our students also designed the icebox structures for maximum public engagement by having areas on the structures for folks to write comments, as well as provide information about Passive House and its benefits, its construction, as well as the purpose of the Icebox Challenge. Passive House industry leaders, local, national, international, came to support this historic event, from national Passive House organizations to local New York City Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice representatives that further supported our youth with the sense of agency for climate action, witnessing the incredible, tangible efficacy of the ice block preservation from the Passive House structures, and really highlighting its beneficial role as a crucial part of the climate solution. Here, the students enjoying the result of their hard work. So these architecture students are definitely well prepared to be environmental and social change agents and are ready to be active leaders in participating in the green economy. We had the support from industry sponsors without whom this endeavor could not have been realized. It really takes a community to make this kind of impact. So this is what Passive House for Everyone has done in just a few schools with a variety of school children. But we need to do more. Our next steps are selecting educators, training them, working with more schools, and rolling it out on a larger scale. It's that simple. And we've already begun this work. Locally in New York City, aligned to the New York City's current strategic climate action plan, we are helping to bring climate education into all New York City public schools that's made up of over 1.1 million students. For teacher training, through a partnership with the New York City Public School Office of Energy and Sustainability and Columbia University Teachers College, we are training educators. And nationally at the Massachusetts Environmental Education Society for Environmental Educators, brought to our attention by the Passive House Massachusetts members, Frank Stone and Hank Keating. And globally, as our first initiative to strengthen hope and inspiration, we're working to unite local, national, and global youth in climate action celebration, for which we hope for all of you to join us when the time comes. So engaging in these fronts, we are actively seeking funding to build out capacity to continue this vital work. And we'd love your support to continue fostering the growth of hopeful, creative, and innovative young leaders shaping resilient communities. So Passive House for Everyone has been a remarkable success so far. Our students learn. Our students are excited. our students think creatively, our students build. And when they are finished, they are filled with wonder, self-confidence, self-belief, and hope that big problems can be solved. And if we can keep doing this, one of them just might do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, In. That was really spectacular. And as your last picture showed, it left me with a smile on my face as well. I see I've turned a bit green here with the coloring. That just is a fabulous presentation, and it's a fabulous project that you've got ongoing. How can you measure any kind of enduring impact? You got a lot of enthusiasm. People are running around happy and jumping up and down. Are you seeing visible outcomes and results of the program?
Yeah, well, certainly there's different ways to have a various framework to measure success, and some will be more long-term, which we won't see just yet. But just in terms of from an experiential point of view and just the immediate, we see success when we see literally the joy and creativity and engagement of our youth. So it really showcases their ability to innovate solutions and truly exhibit the nimble thinking that's required, right, for us to be open-minded to new ideas. We also can feel the success as it's reflected in the individuals having knowledge and tools to enhance their quality of life while contributing to climate action. So ultimately, if we can turn it into a cultural norm, that would be an incredible measure of success that we will see in further down the line. And then success can also be evident currently in our growing interest from organizations like the New York City Department of Education and the Mayor's Office, as well as the increasing inquiries and partnerships that we've received, so indicating the impact of our work. So currently we have over 100 New York City public schools with inquiries for our workshop, as well as having, partnering for teacher training. So hopefully in the long term, from a data point of view, we'll get more of that in a few years from now.
That culture angle, I mean, it's absolutely fabulous, because if you can actually change the culture starting on the ground floor as these kids grow up and go out into the world, that would be just spectacular. I'm sitting a few kilometers outside of Paris, and it's not an American culture, it's a French culture. And if I go on over into Africa, you've got a different culture, or into Latin America. If we wanted to copy this, and I think you do want to copy this kind of worldwide, have you given any thought to that adaptation of this approach, but in different settings with different people who have different ways of learning and doing?
Yeah, no, definitely. This is something that we think about a lot. And definitely from an educational viewpoint, there is a certain universal aspects. And what is universal is that children, when given the chance, respond to the opportunity to express their creativity and to connect with knowledge and hope for their future. So our main goal is to bring that to the forefront. So we're proposing not to just impart knowledge as a static repository, but really to reinforce a pedagogy that prioritizes students' involvement and active participation, thus a transformative way for students to learn. Now, how this is executed can and should be tailored to their respective climate and cultures. So therefore, having a close partnership with the local stakeholders and just kind of introducing them to the general principles, and then working with them to tailor it to meet their respective needs is critical.
If we can help on that process, I know you want to kind of franchise globally and just spreading the world and exposing you to other people to say, wow, we should be doing that at our house. If we can help on that, that would be great. For everybody who's on the call, this was said at the opening, but anybody who raises their hand, you will get called on. I'm talking a lot right now, but if you want to ask a question, jump right in. There's just no issue. And until I see a hand, I will keep talking. You started off with an interesting set of slides that showed different aspects of high performance buildings. And in particular, the one that stood out for me was the one about health. And the reason when I was at the UN, we chose high performance buildings as the label rather than just passive house. One, it's the marketing angle if we want to be energetic and not passive. Um, was because we're delivering more than climate efficiency, carbon efficiency. We're delivering more than energy efficiency. There's a whole spectrum of outcomes that if buildings and the whole built environment is done the right way, it delivers on social justice and resilience and water and all of that. Do you connect with that bigger agenda?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we all know the greatest benefit of passive house and high performance buildings, in addition to the optimizing of energy efficiency, minimizing environmental impact, promoting healthy indoor environments for occupants, is the resulting quality of life. And just like you mentioned, along with resiliency, affordability, environmental, social justice, and more. So we view passive house as a foundation of the high performance buildings and the framework through which to connect with the broader spectrum. And perhaps one day we might have to change our label of passive house, but since this is what we specialize as architects, it's just kind of become a secondary nature to extend this to our educational arm. But it's a very important point that you make.
I don't want you to change the label on Passive House because it's got
Okay.
huge brand value. That's not what I meant, but I was
Okay.
just saying that we need to make sure that we're keeping track of things. The French are putting on their big ministerial in March, and their focus is on energy efficiency, but they're also talking about resilience. That's the reason for my question.
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
more, but I see Bob Cavey's got his hand up, so we're going to call on Bob. But you got to put your screen on. We see you in your
Well,
song.
I'm going to leave that off so I don't. I'm going to leave that off so I don't lose my bandwidth in the voice. But
Okay.
did you? Who developed the curriculum for all of this? Is that something you did in your infinite spare time?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I developed the curriculums. And, I did it because this is the way, I mean, honestly, from a personal background, I find that this way of learning was the most beneficial to me when I was growing up. And so I thought, I'm kind of at the base level. If these things work for me, and, I can't say that I was, well, it's all mixed, but it seems to work very well for many students, those that are academically high achieving as well as everything in between and below. So yeah, it was me.
I'm reminded. It's not that many years ago. I took a blues musician and a UN official, the former older black guy from Mississippi, and we'll call it an aging UN official, not present on this call, to a school in Mississippi. Bunch of very bright kids, all very poor, and I forget what we did with them. We played a few tunes and talked and whatever it was, but the kids all looked like they were doing everything they could to not fall asleep listening to us, and it wasn't working out. And just before we left, the teacher asked if we would like to hear them do some songs. And fortunately, we weren't stupid enough to say no. So we said yes. And these 20 kids who have been sitting there as if even having a pulse was a challenge, suddenly sprang to life and just popped out of their chairs. I think only like 4 or 5 of them sang, but all of them were there right behind them, support, kind of moral support and whatnot. It was an amazing experience for me. And that's what I'm struck with about what you're doing, that engaging of them themselves. So this is a long-winded introduction to a question, which is, so how's it going? I mean, we see the happy kids. What's your hit rate, do you think, in the average classroom?
That's a great question. So there's also various scenarios. We teach this in so many different venues. So we've taught this in the most underserved community of kids. We've taught this in the most, prestigious private high school audiences. We've taught it to kindergartners. We've taught it to, high schoolers, middle schoolers, literally the entire spectrum of youth. And the one thing that we seen as the most effective, and we really hit it really well. I mean, it took some trials and errors, but we reached quite a bit. I mean, we can reach anywhere from 70% to 100% engagement based on the activities that we do. And just as an anecdote, in the summer of 2022, we taught to a very underserved community of vocational high school students. They were so all incredibly brilliant. But just in terms of their opportunities in life to have grown, to have some interest in the academic settings, I remember I spent the first summer preparing, spent hours creating a curriculum, had it all down, and then went to class, started giving a speech for about, I think it lasted maybe about 7 minutes. And I said, does anyone have any questions? And one student raised her hand. And I was so happy because they raised their hand to ask a question. And the first thing she said to me was, when is this going to be done? And I remember just really shocked in my mind. I was like, so in my mind, here I had a whole nother 30 minutes of presentation ready to go. And realized it's not going to work in this context. So what I did, I just said, oh, you know what? It's going to be done in 30 seconds. And then we're going to move on to an activity. So I threw out a month worth of curriculum development that I designed, threw it out in that second. Right. And then we started engaging them in what I had planned to do 30 minutes later, but we did it 23 minutes earlier. So truly what I'm trying to say is that we have to, it's so critical if we want to create the maximum engagement, that we have to make things highly relevant to the students. And today, especially when we're dealing with the screen, that we're competing, educators are competing with the screen, that the criticality of engagement and relevance and alignment to what the students are interested in, and it varies in sectors, and as Scott said, culturally, it varies. So it's so critical that we first listen and understand what would be the most relevant and interesting to this group, and how do we bring activities that really maximizes their attention for it?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, your argument about, and that Scott commented on too, about the cultural side of this is really fundamental. And thanks to you, and also to your firm, to you and Tim, you're both working to support this. It's brilliant work. And we want to find ways to help fuel that. I'll for the rest of the people in the call, and I'll keep this short because you're the one who should be talking. But all of you who watched the Obama inauguration the first time saw Bruce Springsteen and Pete Seeger and a few others on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial singing "This Land Is Your Land." It was quite a day. That song started about 50 years beforehand, and it was getting no traction in the country. And somebody stuck 3 stanzas from it in a school textbook. And within a couple of years, they were singing it all over the country, which was part of starting a movement that led to that inauguration. So the stuff you're doing catches fire. If we can help get it into the bloodstream of the school system, that would be fantastic. The only other thing I'd say is somebody needs to start lobbying to have schools rebuilt passive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So the kids are sitting in a passive building when they get this curriculum. But thank you, thank you.
Yeah, we have a school literally about 5 blocks south of us that is a passive house building that's being built. So in New York City, with the Department of the New York DOE of Energy and Sustainability, this is their mission, and it's already taking place. So it's great. So hopefully that'll become a precedent for other states and cities as well.
Well, let me just mention that
I got other questions coming up, Bob.
I'll get out of the way. We built a lot of schools in the 70s, and they're all falling apart now and need to be replaced. So it's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
It sounds like bridges. I see that my namesake is on. Supriya, over to you for questions. You got to unmute. You got to unmute. Oh, no, it's not unmuting you.
There we
Can I
go.
unmute you?
Did it work?
There you go. You're good. You're
Yay.
good.
Hi, sorry. I'm actually I was stepping. I got the opportunity to step on this because I know that you know him already, but Barry McCarran
Ah, yes.
is he's my manager, and I was coming from sustainability background, and have just kind of got into passive house. Have done the courses, and I suppose coming from a sustainability background, which was more biodiversity and
Mm-hmm.
conservation, often I suppose it was getting overlooked in what I was doing, the importance of passive house and the
Right.
importance of the built environment. So I just wanted to comment firstly and say I found your presentation absolutely fantastic. I thought
Yeah,
really
thank you.
um, it was really enjoyable. And actually, what was quite nice, and this was the second half of my comment, because obviously I'm lecturing and dealing directly with students, that sometimes we encounter apathy. Is the only way I can put it. So even in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom, there's a certain amount of apathy that you have with the current generation. And I don't know whether
Mm-hmm.
you guys are finding the very same thing, where even when you're quite impassioned about something, and then you're looking around, and as you were saying, you either have the screens are in front of them,
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
and that's what you're, or alternatively, you're like, guys, isn't that great? And then you get the look,
Yes.
the vacant look. So it was more just a query or a question, whereas when it comes to sustainability, we tend to hit them quite hard with the climate reality side of things, where this actually you need to know where you're at to know where you're going, and this is how directly climate change is going to affect you here where you're living on the day to day. But how do you, whenever you're doing passive house, which um I suppose some of our students could be as young as maybe 17, 18, and the
Mhm.
idea of even owning a home or building a home is so foreign to them until they come into the course. How do you not battle the apathy, but how do you bring them on board with actually this is something that you really need to be thinking about now and not in 5, 10 years time?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. And I feel exactly what you say about apathy. I experience that, and one of the things I do is that if you know me on a daily basis, 24/7, Mondays is a very low point, and then it goes higher and higher, back up again. It's constant roller coaster. And the only thing I try to do for myself to resist that apathy from students is I work harder. And this is where you have the teacher burnout, that I really work hard to create an energy and just almost ignore their apathy. Because what I find is that students do, I mean, often even my architecture students who care about this so much, they have this blank face, and I don't know if they're excited or not. And so I literally ask them, are you guys excited about this or whatnot? And they all go, yes, we're thrilled. But you'd never know from the energy that they give off. So I think one of the things I just do is I just really create my own self environment in which I just keep things strong and keep the spirit strong for everyone. And through that, I think eventually it does kind of rub off on them. And, we can't all control their mannerism, that even though they're really excited on the inside, they may not always show it on the outside. And that's what I've learned through many of these classes. And also I've noticed that it takes time. One of the great things about important aspect of education is you have to have an emotional connection. Once you have an emotional connection to, the mentor, then you're so much more ready and open to learning from them. And that actually takes time. So usually, as you know, rightly know, right? First class is, people are kind of nervous. They don't know who you are as a teacher, and they're trying to get to know you. And you probably notice that as the semester goes in deeper, that there's a much better connection with the students, much more friendliness, more openness. And so building trust and having that connection really helps to fight against apathy in general, if that makes sense. And then, as you rightly know, it really takes to understand what is relevant to them and how do we connect passive house ideas of energy efficiency to a much broader framework in which there are aspects of it that they can relate to. And once they make that connection of relevance, then they're much more ready to accept and learn about the energy efficiency of passive house.
Um, I would like to follow up on that in the other direction.
Yeah.
You have all of these students, but then in your presentation, I saw the professional community present, either through sponsorship or giving presentation, and I saw the local city representation there. I don't need a whole lecture of it because every situation is going to be different. But Sean Pander out in Vancouver, I don't know if you know Sean.
Yep.
He always said that getting this done seriously requires getting the entire industrial ecosystem lined up to
Yes.
these outcomes. Do you have any comments on, from your perspective, getting an educational program, the best ways to engage both the professional community and with the local administrations in terms of putting something like this in place? What were your keys to success?
Well, so here in New York City, I mean, really, we just did a grassroots effort, just started, reached out to schools, and then eventually, we got notice and somehow, and then currently in New York City right now, we're seeing an alignment of the local political as well as the educational bodies intersecting to really support this shared agenda of climate action through building industry as well as through education. And we find that obviously everyone together, we all know, is the most effective way of creating this change. In the meantime, I mean, even with our education, we do, to your point, we bring in industry professionals because, as we say, our goal of education is not for it to be this static repository of knowledge gaining, but rather a real active engagement with communities, with stakeholders, leaders. In fact, we just did this week at Pratt, where we were doing a passive house urban design, studying 80 acres of prime New York City real estate that's about to be rezoned. And one of the things we did was we invited the local council member who devised this community organized 6-month input about what should happen in their neighborhood. She came, spoke to our students, and so we connected the local politicians to the educational realm. And now we're both excited. The students are excited. She's excited because the education's happening and she wants to come back for the midterm. So really, as best as we can, when we're doing this from both sectors, if we can somehow find ways, and it literally could be making a phone call or, through connections, to make that connection happen simultaneously really makes a big difference.
You've signed or are in the process of signing, I don't know which, the MOU with the UN. Does that help you with your positioning in the market? Does it bring value to what you're trying to get done, just having that association?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. It's really great to be affiliated with the most well-known organization, with this mission to unite people and create change, worldwide. This affiliation with UN really provides us with a much greater and solid platform to expand our reach globally. And we really have this shared mission to ultimately promote the well-being of people's lives, right, at a global level, and to have the international support of the UN and to have the cooperation to be able to achieve this is very important to us. So thank you for that.
Well, don't thank me. It's the job you're doing is just without a comparison. So thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I'm going to stop asking questions now and hand it back. I'll see real quick if anybody's got any final burning question that they would like to ask. I think Barbara Ann's got a couple of announcements to make. So Ian, I'll say thank you very much. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing you in Enniscorthy.
Absolutely.
Barbara Ann, over to you.
Well, thank you, Scott, and thank you so much. In that really kept us all on the edge of our seats, and seeing all those kids from the youngest to the older, it's so engaged. It's truly wonderful. And I really would love to be able to do an ice box challenge here, but we'd like to be able to have students build it. So it would be a good way to do it.
Yeah, and I see Sebastian here, he's the one who originated it. So thank you, Sebastian.
And you gave me a lovely introduction because Sebastian is going to be doing our next darling. And that's going to be on the 13th of March at 4 p.m. London time. So same as today. So it's going to be there, and we're looking forward to Sebastian doing that. So our Sebastian Moreno Baca is from A2M and is architect and based in Brussels and in New York at times, I think. So he'll tell us more about that next month. So I really look forward to hearing that. But in your presentation was remarkable, and it was great to see the engagement, and I could see the interest on people's faces. I want to say We have a link to this. This is being recorded and will be downloaded and then uploaded onto our website, so enniscorthyforum.org. That's where you'll find it. And all our BAC learning webinars are on it. And we did our first one in March last year, so all of them going back to then are on our website. And we did mention our summit in April, and that's going to be in Enniscorthy from April 8th to 10th. And we hope to see as many of you as possible there. And I will circulate a link to everybody again after this broadcast. And we have extended our early bird, so you will get more details on that. So if you want to get on board. Scott also mentioned the Paris Forum, which is happening the 7th and 8th of March in Paris, France, I suppose I should tell everybody. And we're doing some pre-forum events on the 5th and the 6th. We've been invited by the French government and UNEP and Global ABC, and we're involved in some of those. So the links to register for the pre-forum are also on our website, enniscorthyforum.org. So if you're interested, please do log on and see how you can register. Some places are limited because we're using a beautiful building in central Paris, but it's a government buildings and we're limited to the space that we can use for that. So I want to thank Ian again for doing such a wonderful presentation. I want to thank everyone for coming on today. And I know that for some of you it's morning and for others it's afternoon and going into late evening. I look forward to seeing you all again, hopefully in March for our next webinar, and perhaps see some of you in Paris for the French Forum. And wish you all happy St. Valentine's Day. Thank you and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.